Hello Year 9s, it's nice to finally have you back in the workshop. I know a lot of you have been missing doing the practical activities, and what we're going to be doing over these next number of weeks is we're going to be developing your practical skills. Okay, so we're doing resistant materials, which is the use of woods, metals and plastics, and you're going to be mainly making a product that looks a little bit like this. So this is a set of headphones. Okay, the old traditional headphones that plug into the normal sort of the old sort of socket. I know a lot of you are on these earpods and wireless ones, but this is more of a sort of traditional making project. Now we're going to be teaching you about metalwork, we're teaching you about plastics, and we're going to be teaching you how to bend materials in a process called laminating later on in this project. Today I'm going to start by showing you how to mark out and cut a little bit of brass. Okay, so we're going to be doing some metal work today. Okay, so first thing you're going to need a ruler, you're going to need a pencil, and you're going to need a bit of masking tape to help you mark it out. Okay, so I've just moved the camera so hopefully you can see a little bit clearer what I'm doing here. We're going to be marking out this piece of brass, and we need the piece of brass to be 85 millimeters long. So what you'd normally do when you're marking it out is you'd put your ruler down and then you'd make a line with your pencil where 85 millimeters is. But because we're doing metal work, it's actually a little bit difficult to see where we're going to mark out. So before we start, we're going to take a little bit of masking tape. You don't need a lot, just a very small piece, and you're just going to wrap that piece of masking tape around the piece of brass, somewhere between sort of 80 and 90 millimeters, and just rotate it all the way around like that. We're doing this for two reasons. One, it helps you clearly see where you're marking it out, and the second, it also stops it just gives you the saw a little bit of support. It just helps it start off cutting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to put my ruler at the end of the piece of brass here, and then I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to make a mark at 85 millimeters. Okay, so hopefully you can see where I've just made that line there at 85 millimeters on the masking tape. Okay, so that's basically how we mark it out. Just going to check once we've cut it, you won't be able to go back, and it's really important that this is the exact length. So make sure you're doing it at 85 millimeters, not 95, not 80, 85 millimeters is really important. Okay, so that's how we mark it out first of all. Okay, so I've moved the camera again so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. This is a slightly different setup than you're used to. We've actually got our Metalwork Vise here. Okay, now our Metalwork Vise is really good for gripping onto metal, as you would suggest, and notice that it actually goes inside our woodwork vise. So you're going to need to go and collect yourself a metalwork vise, like so. Be careful, it's reasonably heavy, and we're going to place this part in to our woodwork vise. So you're going to need to open our woodwork vise and then place, being very careful of your fingers. It's quite heavy, you don't want to trap your fingers underneath. We're going to place our metalwork vise into our woodwork vise, and then we're going to tighten up the woodwork vise so that's nice and steady. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to take out a bit of brass that we marked out earlier, and we're going to undo our metalwork vise and we're going to place it in. You want the piece you're cutting, the mark there, reasonably close. If you're left-handed like I am, you're going to have it on the left-hand side of the vise. If you're right-handed like most people are, then you're going to have it on the right-hand side of your vise. But whatever feels more confident or comfortable is absolutely fine. So I'm going to place it here with my cut pretty close to the jaws of the vise there, and I'm going to tighten that up. Okay, now make sure it's nice and secure. You don't want to crush the metal, which you probably won't be able to, but you also want it nice and secure. You don't want it moving when you're cutting it. Okay, so that's how you place it in the vise, obviously, and where you put your metalwork vise in. What you're going to need now is you're going to need a hacksaw. Okay, so this is a hacksaw. Your teacher will give you a set of these hacksaws, and this is used for cutting metal. Okay, you've got some very sharp teeth here in the metalwork you've got some very sharp teeth here in the blade. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to hold it with one hand. Okay, I'm left-handed, so I'm holding it with the left hand, and you're going to place your other hand on top of the metal, on top of the sort of metal here at this end, and you're going to start by cutting. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start placing it on my line, and then nice and using the whole of the saw. I'm going to cut through. Okay, now I'm not going, you can see I'm going quite slowly. Okay, it's not a race, it's all about accuracy. I'm using the whole of the blade, and then once it starts cutting off there, you see you'll probably be able to snap the last bit just twizzling off like that. Be careful, the end piece could be quite hot. It could also be quite sharp where we've cut it and you've got little bits of burr, little bits of sharp bits of metal on there. Now this piece should be 85 millimeters long. You need 2 of these, please. So you're going to need to cut them in the same process I've just shown you twice and end up with 2 pieces of brass that are 85 millimeters in length. Okay, so that's how you cut out your brass and how you mark it out and how you cut it out.